NPA should consider prosecuting former President Jacob Zuma, Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe and former Minister Nomvula Mokonyane. That's the recommendation of the State Capture Inquiry Commissioner Raymond Zondo. And it doesn't stop there. The Commission also says the National Prosecuting Authority should go after 14 Bosasa officials accused of bribing top ANC and government officials. Heidi Giokos is following the story for us. She joins us now live. So it's pretty clear that Part 3 of the report doesn't find prima facie evidence against Jacob Zuma, Gwede Mantashe and Nomvula Mokonyane, but it does believe the NPA should pursue them. That means the Commission believes there is sufficient evidence regarding these matters.
Certainly, Shahan, and I think that is very important for everybody who's reading this Part 3 of the State Capture Commission report to truly understand what it is recommending. So we do understand, if we can actually just pull up that graphic, we know over 14 Bosasa officials have been referred to the National Prosecuting Authority for possible prosecution related to corruption. There are other matters regarding whether or not they should be prosecuted, money laundering and so forth. But you also have a situation where you have other individuals that are named in being recommended for possible further prosecution when it comes to corruption. So what we do understand is that it's the South African Post Office officials, Department of Correctional Service officials. But what's also interesting here is that the report says that the NPA should consider prosecuting the current Energy and Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe, as well as former President Jacob Zuma, former SA Board Chair Dudu Myeni, as well as Nomvula Mokonyane. The list is endless, Shahan. We do understand that there are more than 60 people that are recommended for prosecution by the National Prosecuting Authority. It includes the former president, it includes the current minister, it includes a current deputy minister. So the list is endless, but this speaks to the fact that there is possible sufficient evidence for the National Prosecuting Authority to further investigate and bring forward cases not just related to corruption, but money laundering, as well as the fact that many of these officials, be it Bosasa officials or officials within government entities and ANC officials, were fully aware of what was going on, how bribes were being paid, how tenders were awarded from certain government entities to Bosasa without following proper procurement processes, without following proper tender processes. So, as I mentioned, the list goes on, and it's over 60 people that have been recommended to the National Prosecuting Authority. And this is just Part 3 of the State Capture report.
So let's talk about the 14 Bosasa officials here, accused of bribery. The people who apparently handed out bags of cash, some of them in Louis Vuitton bags, funded parties, etc. What has the Commission found regarding their role in all of this? Yes,
so we do know that it's 14 Bosasa officials. I'm just going to name a few. So we know it's the former Bosasa CEO, Angelo Grizzi, who did not shy away of saying that he was part and parcel of what exactly was going on at Bosasa. He knew exactly what was being paid to who. He was part of those meetings. He even went to a trade show in Dubai where he was part of some trade show that focused on security upgrades, and this is how the South African Post Office got involved in this particular deal, where there were very expensive gifts that were bought to bribe these government officials. We also know it's the Bosasa CFO, Andries van Tonder. We also know it's Bosasa Account Department's employees, Bosasa's director, Bosasa's IT head, Bosasa's auditor, a consultant with Bosasa. The list is endless, Shahan. But what's interesting here is also, I know you've just asked specifically about Bosasa officials, but we do know that ANC MPs as well, such as Vincent Smith, who is actually in court, and I do believe that our colleague Pule Letshwiti-Jones will go further in this. But it's not only with regards to corruption that the National Prosecuting Authority needs to look into prosecuting for corruption. We also do know that there is recommendations for prosecution of money laundering and also fraud, also for money laundering, corruption and fraud, and we do see Bosasa officials on every single list when it comes to the recommendations made by the State Capture Report to the National Prosecuting Authority. What's also important is that the State Capture Report recommends that the National Prosecuting Authority should consider prosecuting certain individuals for failure to report suspicious or unusual transactions. You cannot have these bribes amounting to over 75 million rand and tenders being awarded to Bosasa from these key state-owned entities that have now been hollowed out and are in a complete state, such as the South African Post Office, and nothing was mentioned. So Bosasa finds itself in a very difficult position. Gavin Watson, of course, late, but Angelo Guizzi has a lot to answer for.
Yeah, definitely so. We're going to leave it right there. Our reporter, Heidi Giokos, continuing to unpack part 3 of the State Capture Report for us.
Yeah, and today the ANC held a media briefing to respond in more detail to the State Capture Commission's latest findings. And for more on this, we're joined by eNCA's Pule Letshwiti-Jones. Pule, thanks so much for joining us. You know, as Heidi mentioned, there are a lot of ANC names in part 3 of that report. Recommendations that the NPA must start to probe some of them. Just how seriously does the party view this report, given that there are so many names from the governing party in part 3?
Well, it's no secret that some of the top, high-profile senior ANC officials were implicated in this report, and the party has come out to say that they will now be looking into the thorough process of having the body established within the National Executive Committee that will ensure that it goes through this report and some of the individuals who were implicated. Of course, we've seen now the likes of the ANC chairperson, Gwede Mantashe, coming out to say that they will be taking this report for judicial review. But while this is the case, there are other members as well, such as ANC senior party members like Nomvula Mkonyane, who've actually told the eNCA that they will be consulting with their legal teams as well, looking into this report. But primarily, so what we see here is that Bosasa's main mechanism was to ensure that they target these key individuals in exchange for lucrative favors, which would score them bids for tender contracts as well, like my colleague Heidi said, to the tune of about 75 million rand. But we've seen how others such as Dudumieni as well, who's the chairperson of the Jacob Zuma Foundation, would get 300,000 in Louis Vuitton bags in exchange as well, to ensure that the docket, which is looking into the allegations and corruption allegations Bosasa had committed, was of course withdrawn and done with, and therefore the accountability process was delayed there. And the ANC is quite of the view that these are some of the allegations they thoroughly need to look into as they also prepare for their National Elective Conference expected to take place this year. And it is quite a tough, season for them as we are speaking. We also do understand that there's that whole establishment of the renewal committee, which will then be headed by some of the ANC veterans, as to how the party can, rebrand itself and, of course, try to overcome these challenges which are hindering their progress, such as corruption and some of the senior officials being implicated in such reports. I just want you to take a listen to what some of the party officials say they would be doing in saving the ANC's reputation.
All right, so we've got a bite from, is it Dakota Letshwiti now?
Yep.
All right, so let's have a listen to what Dakota had to say.
We also took a decision to say that anyone who's implicated in wrongdoing, such a leader must face the Integrity Commission voluntarily out of their own consciousness if they believe that they have any clarity to make to the Integrity Commission. And that's what we'd encourage even comrades who are implicated in the current report of the Zondo Commission to approach the Integrity Commission, because as it is for now, they have not been formally charged, investigated and prosecuted. The alternate to the step aside is the comrade out of their own volition to approach the Integrity Commission as part of ensuring that as the movement we maintain proper ethics and morality, and everybody is held to account.
Yeah, so making the point, as Gwede Mantashe has made, there's no prima facie evidence at this stage. But of course the report does say there's enough there that is questionable, that needs to be looked at in more detail. You've had a look at some of the potential money trails that could link key individuals within the ANC and within government that have come through in this report. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Right, and particularly when it fingers individuals like Nomvula Mokonyane, the report does strongly recommend that there's sufficient evidence against her in a form of the gratifications she received, and of course the 50,000 rand should be getting per month, of course, from Bosasa to ensure that they kept on getting contracts from the Department of Correctional Services. We've mentioned around how Dudumi as well would get 300,000, which would be channeled into the Jacob Zuma Foundation. But furthermore, they've strongly recommended that the investigations be taken against the ANC Member of Parliament, Cedric Frolic, who they allege facilitated a meeting with the then ANC Member of Parliament, Vincent Smith, in exchange to give Bosasa some few deals as well within the Department of Correctional Services. This is one member, Cedric Frolic, who's also said that he would be consulting with his legal team to ensure that the report, of course, is challenged. But while that's the case, we also understand that this is the likes of Defence Deputy Minister of Veterans as well, Thabang Makwetla, who also is alleged to have received security upgrades at his home and paid 25,000 for a quotation that would have costed around 90,000 rand. So this is what the report has detailed. It's also said that the likes of the ANC chairperson, Gwede Mantashe, did, of course, receive security upgrades at his 3 homes in Johannesburg and the Eastern Cape. And the report says that there should be investigations which, of course, unfold and look into these individuals, despite some of them saying there isn't any prima facie evidence to support this, or saying that they will be challenging the report.
The ANC has set up a committee to process the report, and I will subject myself to that process. But I want to refer you to only one clause in the report, which refers this me for investigation tape. It says there is a reasonable prospect that further investigation will uncover prima facie case against Mantashe. Basically, there is no prima facie case at this point in time. And the Commission says maybe further investigation will actually uncover such a prima facie case. So that is why it should be taken for review.
All right, that's Gwede Mantashe and that report by eNCA's Pule, Letshwiti-Jones. And you know, Shahan, it's interesting, it's very much what we heard yesterday. And fair enough, the ANC is saying until there's prima facie evidence, we don't have to do anything. The reality, though, is as you listen to what Heidi says about the many ANC names and the many question marks that are coming through around dodgy transactions, and the reality that we know that the president of the party himself said to an NEC meeting, we know that things go on that shouldn't go on. There is rot that has to be uncovered. One wonders at what point it will start to crack open. If there are bad apples within the party, at what point are we going to see the NPA taking action? I think it's going to be a very interesting next move that we're waiting for after this report.
Especially ahead of the elective conference, because the next couple of months, if the NPA does decide to pursue the people named in Part 3 of the report, that's going to have huge implications on what unfolds at the ANC's elective conference in December.
Yeah, because it's not a party united behind one leader and getting corruption out. It's a party that's factionalized. So accusing someone of corruption could be seen as a factional accusation. So it's going to be a few interesting months. But it always is in South African politics. And